Where is it?
It's in Karnataka.
Close to Mangalore.
Dharmasthala. Yeah.
Sangeeta, would you want to open up?
We will wait for another 5 minutes because people are joining.
Okay. So Sudhir, congratulations on being the CEO for MCRIN.
Thank you.
Nice.
A lot of things are happening. Let's see.
Yeah, I guess it's good. Good timing also.
Prakashji, I am already recording this session, so don't worry. If you want, I'll circulate.
Sangeeta ji?
Ji, sir.
Okay, so if something happens to my system, the presentation is not visible, then you take over. I have already
Yes.
shared the presentation with you.
Yes, yes.
There are systems, certain times it behaves very oddly. And during the crux point of time, it behaves oddly. So I'm just sensitizing that. So
Yeah,
I have a 6 or 7 slide presentation, which I think talks about the client protection principles and all that stuff. So should not be.
So you have shared it right now, sir?
आपके साथ mail, I have mailed it to you couple of maybe half an hour back.
Okay. Okay.
category. 70. Okay. Right. Thanks. ಅದನ್ನ பார்க்கிறேன். அது ஒன்றும் பண்ணல.
Sangeeta, I think you should open up now because it's 3.
Another 2 minutes, ma'am. 3:05 start करेंगे.
सुधीर जी नमस्कार.
Hello,
सुधीर जी.
Hello, Mr. Hegde. Good to see you. Hello.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, sir.
Mr.
Everyone-
Modak, Mr. Modak, how are
yeah.
you?
Fine.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. आपको बहुत दिन बाद में देखा. थोड़ा लग रहा, थोड़ा हेल्दी हो गया. Okay.
Sir, healthy is a good sign,
Yes. Always. It is a good sign always.
but not in today's world.
Right. But now
Okay, sir.
everybody are going to sleep. And they are dieting, they are running, every time they are conscious of health. So they have to reduce their weight.
Yeah.
It's
How
a
are you doing?
competition like that. Going good.
Yeah. Good to know.
I'm sorry you are my office, but I am not there till
No.
that time. I have out
This
of
one.
that time.
பேசுங்க. நான் ஆக்சுவலாக ரிமோட் இங்கே காணும் சொல்லி கேட்டேன். ஏன் எடுத்து கொடுத்தாங்க? ஆக்சுவலாக பார்த்தா இது அங்கேயே வச்சிருக்காங்க. நம்மகிட்டே கொடுத்துருங்க.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Shaital.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. There is a request to everyone that if you are not speaking, if you can mute your mic, it would be helpful for us, for every one of us, that we could listen the discussion properly. And thank you for being part of this very interesting discussion. This is a discussion we were thinking to do it, planning to organize it for some good time. Like this is like in this your industry, we are serving to the clients, and we are doing it well actually in Indian market. I can tell you that we are doing extremely well. But one of the things we always want to keep in understanding that how much are we protecting the client as well. Because there are many gaps in Indian market. One, we do have data asymmetry. We have 2 strong arrays of microfinance. One is JLG model led by NBFCs. Another one is SAG led by government like SRLM, NRLM. We don't have any data of SAG on Credit Information Bureau, the Credit Information Company's platform. We don't have that one. So data asymmetry is one, and that's a significant portion of microfinance, SAG. So data asymmetry. Second thing that, we have also a push from the investors, from the lenders, from our inside that we need to develop the market. We need to keep the market intact. So in that case also, there may be some time, although whenever we go to ground, we don't see that much, but still we also sometime what we also reduce the time to interact with the client, to understand their needs. And also with the invent of technology, with the insertion of technology, it is also reducing. So these 2-3 things we were discussing inside. Then we thought, why don't we pick up client protection principles to understand how is it working in India? Second thing, when we were discussing all these things, then one thing came up very sharply, that these client protection principles, if we are adhering, is it really helping us to raise the funds or not? I do believe that if you do good work, then definitely today or tomorrow, funding agencies, investment companies will come and support. That's for sure. But still, is it really helping us? That's another areas of discussion, internal discussions were going on. We thought, why don't we bring these two together? Then we thought, okay, fine, let us do it. So then we started talking to these industry people, our members, everyone. So we could understand 2-3 arrays of people. We literally want to understand from them. One is who are the practitioners of this client protection principle or client protection, whatever way it may be. One is practitioners. Second thing, the tools we have developed on how these tools are being used. Like we have developed the tools of client protection in different ways. Sometimes it is a only client protection principle. Sometimes it is the part of client other tool. And we have put this client protection principle in that tool. Third thing, we also wanted to understand from the lenders that how do you really consider this while investing? Fourth, which is very important for us to understand from the microfinance institution, everything said and done, is it really working for them? Is it really helping them to keep the market intact and also to raise the fund? And we do have very illustrious panelists over here. We do have Hema. So, I mean, most of us, we know each other. Just for the other people, so Dr. Hema Bansal, she is Senior Consultant in Strategy, Inclusive Finance, Responsible Digital Finance, and Gender. She has over 20 years of experience in inclusive finance, responsible finance, fintech, and gender. Currently, she works as a consultant to IFC in South and Southeast Asia. She is associated with SQTA series in supporting them to set up a fund to support microfinance institutions and fintechs. We do have Veena Yamini. She is a development practitioner having experience of 15 years. She has worked in a couple of countries like Myanmar, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Philippines, Colombia, Cambodia. Then she has experience in the area of EM banking, market research, product development and pilot testing, social performance management, and others. She is one of the individual speaker who can give us very candid response because she's not a part of anything. She can tell us very candidly what exactly the situation is. Then we do have Dr. Akil Khan, is the Managing Director of Mitrata Inclusive Financial Services. He holds master degree in social work and a PhD in women empowerment from Jamia Millia University. I mean, Akil doesn't really need any introduction in this segment. I don't know why I'm telling all these things. So he doesn't need. Then the next one, he also same thing, Sudhir. And Sudhir has like over 20 years of experience in inclusive finance, R&D, ESG, SDG, impact investing. So he has also very illustrious career for more than 2 decades. Then we do have Miss Nirosani. She is CEO of BOPA. I'm not seeing her name here.
No, she's not. She's not joining.
She's not joining.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we have Nigina Begmatova. Pardon me if I am not pronouncing it properly. She is from Agent for Impact. and she is a graduate of Women Leadership Program at Institute for Study of United States in USA. Nigina was awarded National Prize in 2016 for her contribution to development of Tajik society. She's also the initiator of several activities, environment protection, client protection, etc. And we do have Tanvi. Tanvi comes up with 18 years of experience in inclusive finance. Tanvi is currently the South and Southeast Asia Regional Head of Sustainable Finance at MFR. MFR is a global rating agency providing assessments, data, and technical expertise for the sustainable finance industry. Thank you very much for your consent. Thank you very much for coming here, giving your time. One request is there, please do align your discussion, your points with the raising of the fund. Everything we can do, if we are not getting fund, microfinance institutions are not there. They cannot work. So it is my request. And Hema is quite poised of this one. Over to you, Hema. Please take it forward.
Thank you so much, Saibal. At the outset, I'm really delighted to see the participation. I can see like we are 83 of us, excluding some of the speakers, but that's an overwhelming kind of participation, and tells us more about how important is this topic. And thank you for really bringing this spot on to Sadhan. So a very good afternoon to all of you. And again, thanks to Saibal for inviting me to moderate this session. I really have with me experienced panelists today, from rating agencies to microfinance institutions to impact outcome assessors. And all of that, what they bring to us is going to be making this discussion very interesting. But before we jump on to the questions, I thought I would just very briefly introduce you to the topic. So first of all, I'm really very touched to see that till date, a lot of the work that the Smart Campaign did has made a huge impact. And that, we've seen, and everybody in the sector really remembers the consumer protection principles. Well, the CPP is what we know. But just to kind of take you a little away from that, I also wanted to let you know that the Smart Campaign came to an official end, and most of you know it, that it came to an end in 2021, in 2020. And so the CPP is also kind of, in a way, they kind of were transitioned out. So they were handed over to Ceres SPTF. And over the years, there have been certain changes, and they have been now rebranded as Universal Standards of Consumer Protection. So we don't refer them to as consumer protection principles, but more as, at least on the global level, more as Universal Standards of Consumer Protection. Why do we think that consumer protections become so very critical at this point in time? And it has been 10 years after the crisis, and what's changed now, but over the decade, I think this is the time when we've seen a sea change. So what's happening is that I think you as an institution post-COVID would have evolved, right? Like you've seen yourself really offering, number of MFIs are offering more number of products, so probably financial, non-financial. The whole ecosystem is changing. You're seeing more and more partnerships. We are seeing that there is a partnership between the MFIs and technology companies. And we're seeing that the technology companies, then we also probably are, some MFIs are working with agents. So there is this whole environment that is changing, and there's the technology technology coming in, and with with more partnerships taking place between microfinance institutions and with the other vendors. So at this point, we see that more products are coming in, old products are rebranded, and then for even microfinance institutions, possibly you are on a digital transformation journey of some kind or the other. We're allowing, maybe payments to take place in a digital through digital channels. We're seeing that new processes are getting established, and that the interaction between the client level and the microfinance institution may be undergoing some change, wherein it's getting more phygital. So it's like you have a in-person and also digital combinations most of the time. So that has changed. And there are new kind of institutions that are coming in. Fintechs are really kind of coming into this new space. So the competitors are also changing. The face of the competitors for microfinance industry is changing. And again, given that you start following the digital channels or you start digitizing, the regulations also are changing, or you're working in a very open environment that there are no regulations, and that you need to really work where, where the risks are definitely higher. So what we've seen that social investors and funders in India, they are aware of the ever-changing dynamic environment. And we've seen that new risks are really emerging. And MFIs are transforming themselves or kind of changing their products and services or the way they deliver the financial services. For example, I can think of as 10 years back when I was at campaign, I would see transparency as a key indicator and key principle, and nobody really bothered about privacy of client data. But now that has really come up. We're going to be seeing the new bill coming in, which will also mean that that there will be more focus on security, privacy, frauds, and different and new kinds of frauds coming in. So that is the reason why I think that consumer protection now is very important, because we are dealing with different kinds of risk than what we've seen before. So today's discussion, we're going to be focusing around 4 areas. The first is importance of considering consumer protection, like how do rating and grading agencies have changed their tools or have changed their approach while rating the microfinance institutions. Are there any more tools available with the rating agencies, and what probably they can give us some guidance on what can be done, and how do we kind of start embedding consumer protection in a new environment or a changing environment? What are the experiences of MFIs having, so how difficult is it to adhere to consumer protection? So probably we can hear that from Mr. Khan. And does consumer protection standards to finally, if an institution really would do it, because of course you want to kind of mitigate the risk, but more important because your financial investor or your funder is driving you to do that. So does that really, so if an institution is complying to the consumer protection standards, does that really lead to better access for funding? So these are the 4 questions that we're going to be dwelling on. And to begin our discussion, I'll just call on Yamini to be the first speaker. So Yamini, over to you. Like, why do you think it's important for microfinance institutions to consider what we now call as the universal standards of consumer protection? Do you think that the industry has an understanding, or what do you think can be done to improve the understanding of responsible finance? And in that context, if you want to bring your experience about Ceres SPTF and what are they doing to help the industry better understand the standards, if you can bring that perspective, that'll be great. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Hema. I think this is a great opportunity, and how much ever we discuss, there is still a lot to be discussed in client protection. Mainly because it has been evolving, as Hema said, and we have Tanvi, both of them from Smart Campaign earlier. So they know the research that went in, the discussions that the industry had at different levels, and especially at global level, to bring a shape to this whole client protection standards, as we call them now. So when I talk about my experience, I am bringing in a little bit of a global perspective. and as someone in the network of series and SPTFs. So I'll talk more from that level, and I'm open to any questions later to talk anything about Indian specific context. So first and foremost, like client protection, like, Hema, as you asked, is there a common definition? Again, luckily, given the last 20 years research that went into it, there is clearly a definition of what is client protection, and the core of that is do no harm. Most of the MFIs have started with this social goal that, we have to improve our clients' lives. And there are different ways to do that, but like, we want to give them access to finance, we want to improve their quality of life, we want to improve their resilience. So there are so many good things we want to do to our clients, but in that zeal, there is always a chance that we might actually do harm. So again, these discussions, many of you are familiar, when too much of loans are given, or the prices are set very high, or there is no transparency at all in the way we are dealing with clients. So there are so many things that can go really wrong. So at the outset, while there is this common definition of client protection, why we need to do, the first and foremost is it's our obligation, it's our moral obligation, it's our legal obligation that we should avoid harm to clients at any of the cost, and this is the minimum thing we should do. And in India, if we look at it, luckily for us, the Reserve Bank of India, the regulator has put in lots of guidelines. Though we won't use the word, or RBI does not use the word client protection standards, but there are several guidelines around it, like, whether our code of conduct, the recent master, the guide direction of and for microfinance companies, rather, has put in place. The main crux of all of that is that, there should not be any harm to the customer. So that's the main thing. Again, if we look at a global level, after Smart Campaign was closed down, these client protection standards have become part of what we call now as universal standards of social and environmental performance management. So in that bigger context, client protection is one of the main areas, and it is the core area. So there are some
there is a request to everyone, if you are not speaking, please keep your, there is someone called RMFL. If you can keep your mic mute, would be good for us. Sangeeta, can you do it? How to mute him?
Okay. So yeah, so as I said, like, these standards are now a part of larger social and environmental performance management. And the crux of it is that as an institution, we need to consider all of these things. And there are some 8 client protection standards. Again, I'll not go into each one of them, but starting from things like offering the right products and services to the clients, being transparent, being responsible in pricing, having a good complaint mechanism, protecting the privacy of client data, having, like one of the main or the new standards that was added was governance and HR, giving very distinct role to the board and to HR teams to ensure that client protection is integrated into microfinance operations. So there are these 8 standards which you can go through at Series SPTF website. I'll share the link later. So why does all of this still become important? If we are saying we have RBI in India, which is very particular, and we are adhering to all the RBI guidelines, why should we care really about the global standards? So it mainly comes from 3 things, I would say. So first and foremost, many of the global impact investors and funders give a lot of importance to the client protection standards because it gives them a confidence, and it also tells them that an MFI which is adhering to these standards is aligning itself with the global best practices. So it gives them confidence before they can do funding. And many of these impact investors, funders do have client protection as, like do no harm as one of the core things. So only if this is adhered to, they will even go and look at any other thing. We may say that, we are an NGO or we are a small organization, we do very well with our clients. But if we are not adhering to even some of the core principles, then they may not have confidence. So one, from their perspective. Second one is again ratings and certifications. When organizations come to rate, the MFIs, if we are adhering to these client protection standards and are complying with them, typically our institutional ratings will be good. Mainly because most of the client protection standards are actually common sense. It is saying things like give full information to your clients, do a good repayment capacity analysis, have a robust complaint mechanism. So these are all things we should be doing anyway. So now when we adhere to all these which are there in the standards, it will automatically help with our ratings and get certifications very easily. The third thing is, like I think Hema also was talking about it from a risk perspective, that reputation risk, again in India we know this very well, in terms of what happened to the industry several times, actually 2006, again 2009 and 2010. The entire challenges that the industry faced in terms of reputation risk, the media glare, all of it could have been avoided if we had all these standards in place. So because when we are again doing these things, for example, we are protecting client data, we are training our staff to behave well with our clients, treat the clients respectfully. So when we do all of these things, definitely that reputation risk will be managed better. And also what again I have seen personally is many organizations which are really good with client protection do have good recognition so industry as someone with robust processes, and someone who generally does well in terms of impact for clients. So these are the three reasons I would say why we need to focus on this. So other question, just like Hema, what you asked about, how can we then improve this, or how do we become more aware of these things? The starting point actually has to be at the board level. Though management and everyone should be aware of client protection, one of the main drivers or one of the main stakeholders who can really drive this whole initiative should be board. So ideally MFIs should look for someone at the board level, ideally who is either part of an SPM committee, or nowadays most of the MFIs have ESG committee or risk management committee. It doesn't matter the name, but at least having someone in one of these committees or at the board level know about client protection, or someone who has experience in client protection, so they are able to better guide the organization and they are able to hold the management accountable in implementing this. The second way is again SERIS and SPTF, they have client protection pathway. Again, I'll not go into details now, but basically it's something which you can join for free of cost. And when you go and join that, it will tell you step by step as to how to improve client protection standards implementation in your organization. So that's second way. Third way is again SERIS, SPTF, and others. They are offering courses also. Again, some of them are free, some of them are webinars like this, some of them are paid. It doesn't matter, but at least I think one good option is to join these courses and understand what are these standards, or go to organizations which already know about this and get someone to train you on these newer standards. The last one, of course, is definitely not to forget the staff and include all these topics of client protection, policies, processes in the staff induction training. So these could be like starting points for us to ensure that we understand what this is and then implement it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Yami, for that. I think you very lucidly kind of put up that the importance of universal standards and what really microfinance institutions need to do to ensure that they are embedding the consumer protection standards. And most importantly, I think the one that you mentioned, that having a commitment at the board level, commitment in some form or having an ESG committee or a risk committee that reports directly to the board and oversees the consumer protection part. Those kind of initiatives really work well. So after having an overview of understanding why is it important to consider universal standards, I think we can now. I'm moving to Sudhir Narayanan, who is the CEO of MCRIL, to really kind of give us a. I think Sudhir is going to kind of take a deep dive into the principles and really tell us what are we talking about, what is consumer protection, and what are some of the tools that possibly MQuill has to support you at the industry level.
Okay, so thanks, Emma. Let me start by, uh, saying that good afternoon, everyone. I know it's hot in various places, but yes, the topic is also hot in terms of client protection, responsible finance. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to Southern team for conducting this webinar on client protection standard, responsible financing, and impact of assessing finance. We have seen, I believe I have been into this industry for many, many years, and I have seen that the kind of adaptability Indian microfinance institutions have demonstrated in the past has been phenomenal. I have not seen that in various other geographies or various other countries, but yes, the other countries follows it, but the kind of changes they understand the concepts, they understand the methodology, framework, and also understand the client centricity, and was able to change the framework very often. So first, if I recollect 2006, when there was instances in some part of South India, microfinance institutions were taken, a back seat and assuming that nothing is going to happen, the microfinance institution will be shut down. But all that is past in the last 10 years, 10, 15, 20 years. Various regulators, supervisory bodies try to put code of conduct assessment, fair conduct policies, client protection principles. So that has completed a decade now. I think 2011 was first code of conduct assessment or fair policy was drafted, and that got modified 3 times in the past. And as Eva mentioned, 2013 is what Smart Campaign looked at globally of looking at client protection, giving some guidance, global perspective of responsible financing, client-centric financing towards this approach. MQuill as an organization has been associated since very beginning, and the co-founders of MQuill was part of the task force when the standards or the policies, protection standards were framed. And I'm pleased to share that they have given a lot of inputs based on their experience in different markets, which we have seen as Smart Campaign and currently under the Series SPTF framework. What I'm going to demonstrate is that the topic is something related to client protection, how it impacts finance, whether microfinance institutions, specifically I'm talking about Indian markets, will be able to raise resources after doing this assessment is what we are going to talk about. My personal experience in this regard is that many institutions have demonstrated in the past that if you follow universal best practices in terms of guidelines, in terms of standards, in terms of principle, you will be noticed one day. Okay, so with that, I will start my presentation. Just let me know whether the screen is available for.
Yes, we can see
Yes,
that.
it is.
It is, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm just moving on a couple of slides. I'll talk about various key aspects, what we need to. I'm talking about what way forward we have in terms of client protection standards, in terms of client protection principles. Okay. The objective is synopsis, how it started. I think I have already discussed that. Increase experience, client protection standards, whether a new product in Indian markets will help, why it will help, why it will not help, pros and cons of that, what is the process of that, and then methodology framework, and then we can take the question and answers session during the last couple of minutes. So the customer client protection standards was predominantly on responsible financing. Core objective is customer centric, and microfinance providers should take larger responsibilities and protects interest of the clients. Okay, so this is the broader major theme of client protection standard and client protection principles. Now, let me share with you the MQ's experience. Okay. So far, we have conducted 92 assessment stroke certification globally. Okay. Unique clients are 42. Client protection certifications are 82. Client protection assessments are 5. We have also piloted 2 pilots, one on digital framework, the other one is a CPP Lite framework, which is called Client Protection Standard Lite framework. The distribution is India accounts for 33% of the total assessment conducted so far, then Cambodia, and then other countries, which is 10-4%. There are other countries which includes Ghana, Kenya, Kazakhstan, Laos, Pakistan, South Africa, Tanzania, Vietnam, and Zambia. We have seen number of unique clients more in India because as a process, earlier it was 2 years check-in and 4 years certification. So there are repeat clients. Number of unique clients in India were more. It's not only we have done client protection assessments for microfinance institutions, we have done for housing finance company, affordable housing finance company, gold loan company, pawnbroking company, and vehicle finance companies, and also fintech company. This is something, this is the universal approach what we have done. In India, something code of conduct assessment is conducted by SIDBI. That's we have done somewhere around 48 assessments. Both Southern and MPhil are continuously encouraging their partners to follow certain guidelines because they are an SRO. And hence we have done a couple of assessments on them also. Now, after doing this, what we feel is that whether client protection standard, if you do that, which I'll come to a little later, what is the, it's a very comprehensive exercise which you have to do. It's a time consuming and comprehensive exercise. It requires a lot of resources to be allocated from the institution. That is what we have seen initial challenges. The first client protection assessment, what we have done in 2013 for an institution, which is a Section 8 company even today. Okay, it's not that only NBFC MFIs can take the assessments. Section 25 companies, cooperatives, business corresponding institutions, everyone can take this institution, but certain indicators will not qualify for that. Okay. Most of the small finance banks who have become small finance banks now, I think 10 out of 8 were microfinance institutions, out of which most of them have gone through certification standards in the past, and hence you can see where they are today. Okay, I'm just giving an example how the international best standards will take you to a larger level in terms of growth. Okay, these are the 8 principles what Yamini was talking about. The 8th one was added recently, or maybe a year back: governance and management commitment. Otherwise, appropriate design, word intentness, transparency, responsible pricing, fair treatment of clients, client data privacy, confidentiality remains the same. So these are the 8 principles what we follow under client protection standards or universal client protection principles. Now, let me take you to why only handful of people, handful of institutions are doing these assessments. They have an appetite to grow. There are social investors who are looking at a client-centric approach. There are international investors who wants to look at as a process how fair are with the clients. Hence, there is a push. I'll say a little bit of push from the institutions to take this assessment and then take it forward and understand how all principles works on ground, what are the gaps you have, how you can address the gaps, and then take it forward. For mid and small MFIs, there are multiple challenges. One is the resource. They have to allocate 1 or 2 resources who can give us information what we want. It's a very comprehensive exercise. Most of the institutions are driven through a governance, which are, either more focused towards growth, more focused towards operations, more focused towards what the SROs and regulatory organizations are saying, but limited focus on how best we can do on raising other resources. Has the time changed in the recent past 1 year, 2 years? Yes and no. Yes, why? Because most of the Indian institutions have utilized their resources or approached their resources to a larger level through Indian domestic investors and debt providers. There is an opportunity for them to take their operations, demonstrate their operations to global funders, global social investors. Hence, there is a need for a client protection certification in a better fashion. Whether a mid and small MFIs will be able to fulfill all the indicators, maybe not toward this point of time, but only time will tell. So given that background, I just want to showcase that there are a few points which I have noted down, which we have noted down on client protection standard light certification. Now, what is this light certification? And I will come to that a little later. Because there are 187 indicators today under 8 different standards, and there are criteria set for, so if you, I just want to take you back, there are 3 certifications, which is gold, silver, and bronze. You have to qualify for around 130 out of 187 indicators to be a bronze certified, 150 out of 187 to be a silver certified, and to be gold 178 out of 187 to be a gold certified. Now there are entry-level indicators, progressive indicators, and advanced indicators. So if you have to get a bronze under the global standards, you have to minimum qualify these standards to get you a bronze certificate. Now, how difficult is to get a bronze certificate? It's not difficult. What we have internally done based on our experience within MCOL is that we have figured out where these institutions are not fulfilling, there is a gap, and then try to plug that into the client protection light product. Where if you are able to complete the client protection light under various 3 aspects, we are seeing that you are gradually progressing towards client protection pathway, which is the global standards, and getting client protection certification in the next couple of years down the line. Okay. Now, what are these? How do you define these indicators? Okay. So if I say bronze certification is out of, I say 130 or 125, 130 indicators, out of which we have looked at 55 to 60, 65 indicators under the CPP Lite product. That is coming from only for mid and small MFIs. Larger MFIs can always look at client protection standard, which is a universal client protection standard certification. Okay. This will help the institution to demonstrate client-centric approach, responsible lending towards clients, and following international best practices. Okay. All this preparation of this tool is based on international best practices and our understanding of code of conduct assessment in India and various other geographies. Okay. So as I mentioned, help build institutional culture, client responsible towards operations, path towards CPA certification, and predominantly for mid and small institutions. Now, these are the few levels which we are looking at: aspiring, emerging, and qualified, where we have looked at most of the indicators which is required under the bronze certification and silver certification under these 3 categories. And hence, if you see aspiring within 18 to 24 indicators, emerging 40 to 48 indicators, qualified 55 to 65 indicators. Now, this is the product which we have tested in other countries. We have not done, we are working on this with Sadhan to see whether this product will take off, and whether the financial institutions or the lenders will be able to adopt this this product and then start lending to this institution on client-centric approach and responsible finance. Okay, so this is the path. We have input, action plan, and report, and this is how we want to take forward the client production light product in Indian markets. That's from on the presentation side. I think I have covered our experience. I think what I have also covered is that there is dearth for institutions to follow global principles, global practices. There is no shortage of funds available for mid and small MFIs if they follow the right path. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sudhir, for this presentation. And yeah, I just had one question. I mean, a very interesting presentation. It's great to know that you have a CPP Lite now, and that would make it more easier for the smaller MFIs to really go in and go for the certification. So basically, if my question is that if they kind of get the CP Lite, then the certification will be given by MCRIL. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And it's also been recognized by the investors in some way or the other?
We have tried with SPTF series in the past in Cambodia market, and it was recognized. They
Oh.
accepted the principles. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
now after kind of hearing from Sudhir about the new methodology that MPRIL has for the consumer protection, and now I'd like to move on to Tanvi Kumari, who is the regional lead for MFR. So Tanvi, I think you've worked in MFR of course has been working in various countries, and you probably have done a lot of certifications globally as well as in India. And so what do you think, like at an industry level, what are some of the strengths that you've seen when you've done these certifications, and some of the gaps also when you do the assessment or certifications in India and then some other markets as well? So what's your experience been?
Sure. Thank you. First of all, thank you very much, Hema. And before I jump into answering your question, just wanted to say that today's webinar is very important. So thanks a lot, Sadhan team, because it's very important to address the vital need for client protection in Indian microfinance and financial inclusion space, because as we all know that access to financial services is a basic right and not a luxury. But that too, especially in a nation where millions aspire for economic empowerment, and there are so many programs running. But how it builds, the client protection builds into it is that access is good, but access should always come with the responsibility, and the responsibility to do no harm to the consumers and to ensure that the customers knows about their rights, and the whole client protection principles that we are talking about today, and coming from Smart Campaign again, to really look beyond just the regulatory compliance in the country. So that's something I wanted to say first before I respond, Hema, to your comments. Now, coming on what strengths we are observing. So let me tell you that with a decade working for Smart Campaign, and now with MFR, I joined last year. So what I really see that Smart Campaign really helped in building the whole landscape and building the whole industry. For example, the strengths and the gaps that we were seeing, say 10 years back, which was more around the institutions were not having simple grievance redressal mechanism. So today we see that these are the basic things that is already existing in the institutions. And today, I really find that in India specifically, that there is a lot of issues going on in terms of maintaining the credit risk, the benchmark that we have on total credit risk that the institution has. But it's also because of the COVID that came between 2020 to 2022, and we are all aware of how difficult it was to manage the whole credit risk. So we see there is one difference there. The second, I would say, gap that we are observing is in terms of, say, having clear-cut matrix when it comes to transparency. For example, some institutions are just in the ambit of being digitally transformed. So while they are doing just, posting things on the website, or sometimes for some clients who have actually started accessing financial services via mobile phone, so some notification do come on the mobile phone. But there are certain issues that we find in terms of notifying the customers, ensuring that the one which is in the process of digitally transformed and the one which is not yet transformed, there is a mix of it or not. So there is not much, I think there's a bit of confusion that we are seeing in terms of those practices. The third one that we are observing is in terms of discrimination piece, in which sometimes with clients who are more than 40 years of age, we also find that there is a, because there is one indicator in the tool, CERIS and SPTF tool, which talks about there should be non-discrimination. So if the client is of a certain more age, like more than 40 years, we also see that in some newer ones, which have started lending in last 5 years or 4 years, they are also not really taking heed of including these customers. Having said that, in terms of strength, definitely grievance redressal mechanism is the strength. And here I would say that a lot of kudos to the SRO, Southern, as well as MFIN, I would say here, because I think having an SRO in place, it has really helped the institutions. And today in this webinar, we have got members of Southern joining in. So we do think that there has been a lot of hand-holding in terms of having a grievance policy in place, having the escalation matrix in place. So that's no more of a gap that we were observing, say, 10 years back. Secondly, I also want to mention over here that with the RBI regulation becoming more clear, and with them coming up with so many guidelines in last 3 years particularly, we also find that there is a very good system in terms of data protection, in terms of ensuring the institutions, like the financial institutions, are really ensuring that customers are informed about where the data is going. It is being shared with the credit bureau, taking the consent, the written consent from the customers. That has become very, very prevalent these days, which is no more of a gap, which we used to struggle earlier. And like India being a country in terms of, again, grievance, we find that there is at least a hotline number, like a free toll-free number that is available. Whereas in some markets like Thailand, I would also say Cambodia over here, the customers do not have the toll-free line access as well. And that's just because of the economy there. And it's just because of the regulation that none of the telecom industry, they offer free services. Apart from that, I would say that currently, with this whole acceleration of digitization that has come in, we also see, and some of the, the indicators when we say, and the standards in the CERIS and SPTF methodology, that becomes not applicable as well. But however, I think that it was a very responsible way in which Smart Campaign did the handover of the entire tool to CERIS SPTF, because when the smart or the client protection 3.0 was, which was actually launched by CERIS and SPTF in early 2021. So I would say that there are certain indicators like the credit decision making taking place based on the algorithms, ensuring that SMS as well as mobile banking notifications as part of transparency. So a lot of these pieces were very much taken care of during the handover. And I think CERIS SPTF really did a great job in putting everything together through their working group, in which MFR was also part of it, and coming up with a tool which is very robust for even the digitally transforming institutions. So does that answer your question, Hema? Yeah.
Yeah, no, great. Thank you so much. I think what the key aspect that you've brought in the front is that I'm glad to hear that most microfinance institutions have a GRM mechanism, because that's something that's still lacking in other markets. Like, for example, if I was in Nepal when working with IFC, or was in Sri Lanka, I wouldn't be able to see that. And of course, I kind of concede with you in terms of the regulation, and also what Sudhir said, that we, as a country, I think the regulator has been very active and has been always recognized for addressing whatever new risks really emerge. The RBI has been very proactive, and we are supposed, we are touted as a country which has one of the strongest regulation. Like, we have a strong regulator in place. So that those are some of the great points, and I guess with digital transformation, some aspects of lagging in terms of discrimination, that possibly could be because most of the, I don't know, but other panelists will have other viewpoints, but mostly because that clients don't have the digital literacy in place, and that can also kind of trigger some of the discrimination that can be there. But with that, I think what's important for us is also to look at the outcome, right? Like, so Nigina is here with us from AFI, and she's going to be kind of throwing a light on what's I mean, they've been working on consumer protection. What has been their learning from working in other markets and also in India, especially if working on the outcome aspect as well. So over to you, Nigina.
Thank you so much. I hope that you can hear me. Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to participate in this unique webinar dedicated to the importance of client protection principles, and we're excited to share our experience and knowledge on this topic. Hope you can see my screen. I share it. Okay, let me make it larger. Yes, indeed, microfinance is an effective tool that expands financial services to low-income individuals and entrepreneurs, and it is essential to implement responsible practices to protect clients from any harm. This includes ensuring that borrowers fully understand the terms and conditions of their loans and have access to transparent information regarding interest rates and fees. Moreover, microfinance institutions should prioritize the protection of their clients from any potential harm, be it physical, financial, or emotional. This can be achieved by adopting client protection principles and guidelines. Let's have a look at it from a different angle and a simple explanation. So, client protection principles, as it was mentioned earlier, a set of standards focused on promoting responsible microfinance practices around the globe. These principles aim to ensure that microfinance institutions treat clients fairly, lend responsibly, and empower them to make informed financial decisions. For example, a sustainable MFI from Eastern Europe adheres to client protection principles and practices, are more likely will attract and interact with impact investors, right? That MFI improves access to financial services, promotes investments, spurs economic activities, and helps lift its clients out of poverty. As a result, desired economic growth. Yes? But let's think, what are the principles of sustainability? So if you know, the principle one is that microfinance services must fit the needs and preferences of its clients. And here comes client protection principles that we are just concerned now. The customers from MFI that face issues like multiply lending, yes, as we said, high interest rates, and treating not responsibly and respectfully for payments, that MFI will fail. Yeah, as poor practices include failure to screen clients for other debts, charging, again, high interest rates or employing harmful debt collection methods. Aside from the negative impact on their clients, such poor practices have serious ethical and reputational implications for the financial institutions. This was mentioned earlier as well. Also, the growing trend of multiply borrowing by clients and inefficient risk management are the most significant factors that stress the microfinance industry. MFI has to ensure that clients are not overly indebted and do not suffer significant harm, both individually and for providers. Here we come to second slide here. Yes, the client protection principles plus number 8, governance and HR. They ensure that microfinance is based on responsible, sustainable lending practices, data privacy, and respect of human rights. Yes. At our company, Agents for Impact, we focus on all of these principles. And it is worth mentioning that impact investment agencies prioritize client protection principle indicators of MFIs and regular assessing and data analysis of policies and best practices orientation of the microfinance sector. So here's a question: how to start? Yes, how to start all this process, how to make this first step for microfinance institutions. The answer is simple: assess and identify. So following an independent assessment to identify strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities to improve business practices, MFIs can implement an action plan for client protection. Yes, for example. For instance, the evaluation of, I will give you an example, the evaluation of one of Indonesian MFI found 4 main areas where MFI has to improve. Yes. Or what are they? It's transparency, offering better information on interest rates and contracts, fair and respectful treatment, implementing new policies and training to ensure that clients receive fair and respectful treatment, avoiding any unfair treatment during debt collection and recovery. So the third one, complaint resolution mechanism. It's about establishing systematic recording, reporting, timetabling, and tracking of complaints to resolve them effectively. And the last one was, of course, internal monitoring, which means improving complaint management and tracking of rescheduled loans for internal monitoring purposes. So based on such evaluation that makes MFI jobs easier, let's say it this way, you can create an action plan to improve the identified areas on client protection and develop policies and procedures, yes, and use them in practice. So how do we at Agents for Impact consider client protection through our tool Officer? So Officer is our proprietary tool with which we rate the sustainability of microfinance institution. And during the assessment, we also analyze how institutions protect their clients. Yeah, you can see on your screens the main evaluation steps on client protection indicators, which is affiliation, certification for client protection standards, financial literacy, and business development trainings. Yes, to not only expand their enterprises, but be well versed with responsible management of their finance and avoid the debt trap. Also ensuring policies, adequate policies that they are in place, that can protect clients against discrimination and harassment. So, of course, strong client redressal mechanism to ensure that clients have the channels to report their concerns. Yes, and also checking clients' vulnerability to climate hazards. Yeah, so client protection is one of the key components on our Officer tool. I mean, this process that offers various levels both at institutional and operational level. So here we come to the question, why do we need it? Yes, so let us be more specific and again simple. For example, how are European Commission and European funds looking to invest in Indian MFIs? Do they seriously look at admit client protection? Of course, yes, they do. Impact funds are looking for investment opportunities, yes, MFIs that adheres to client protection principles. You know why? When making investments in Indian microfinance institutions, impact funds take into account various factors to ensure the protection of clients. This includes the implementation of appropriate client protection principles, such as transparent pricing, fair lending practices, and ensuring that they comply with regulatory standard and best practices. So by doing so, they can help to promote a healthy and sustainable microfinance sector in India, which can benefit both clients and investors. By implementing responsible practices and prioritizing client protection, microfinance can continue to be a powerful tool for promoting financial inclusion and economic development, while also ensuring that vulnerable individuals and communities are not subjected to harm. So, yes, I was trying to make it as short as possible. And thank you so much once again for your attention. For more information, please contact Sadan or please reach me through the email you see at your screens. And looking forward to answer your questions if there's any. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks, Nigina, for your presentation and really kind of brushing up with all the consumer protection aspects that we've just seen from the other panelists as well. I'm just going to kind of talk about, glad to hear that the impact funds are kind of noticing or kind of reinforcing in some way the efforts made by the microfinance institutions when they adhere to the consumer protection standards. Maybe maybe we can directly hear it from Akhil. So I mean, is it helping? I mean, all that work that you're doing, how is it really working? And ultimately, for putting in so much of work and effort, I mean, do institutions have some kind of funds, or do you think that some kind of a facility might be helpful?
Thank you, Emma. First of all, I would like to, echo what Sudhir and Dr. Saibal said. If you do good work and you believe and maintain your optimism, you will be recognized. And from Mitrata, based on my Mitrata experience, I can 100% endorse it. We are struggling for raising resources, funds, largely on the equity side, because the equity ecosystem has totally changed. But definitely the respect and recognition has come in for a very small MFI. I was shocked, not shocked, surprised, if the right word, to see that the governance principle was added the last in the, and for me, it was coming the question since I've been hearing this webinar, why? Because for us, that was the starting point. For me, it came very naturally to first build the ecosystem in Mitrata on the governance side, have the strong board, have the strong independent directors, and create the risk committee at a very early stage, even when we were setting up the institution. So I think we have lost that kind of a time if we are talking of governance and HR now as the last principle to be added, because it has to start from there. And the client protection is not about, sorry, Hema, you were saying something?
Yeah, no, so just kind of adding to that, just because I was at the campaign. So previously what we had is governance was part of the other standards. What they've now done is to SPTF and SERIS has just pulled it out and then added it as the eighth principle. But it does not mean that it has lesser value or, it's at par with the other principles.
No, it's not about lesser value. I think it needs that special mention. It has to be visibly written. Also, about the client protection is about whether it's about the checkbox or whether it's the DNA of the company. That choices the MFIs and we as promoters and, and managers need to doing. I think before I come into whether we are getting money or not, it's very important to understand the change in ecosystem which has happened. The whole microfinance started with the principle of mutual respect, and it has seen the change, and I have seen that journey in my 30 years in different phases, in different roles I have played, from trust, respect on both sides, client and MFIs. It has become highly transactional and highly disrespectful on both sides. This is where we are and why we are talking of client protection, because for me, consumer or client protection is fundamental for any institution to sustain. If I don't have client protection, I'm putting my entire company, my entire investment. First, the promoters bring in the money and the investor come much later when the company is matured and is ready to give the returns. Then the investors comes. But if I don't put up the client protection right in the beginning, I am risking the entire effort and the entire monetary and non-monetary resources being invested in building the company. So the whole idea is that the need for it is coming because the ecosystem has drastically changed. It has drastically changed. And today, I would say I would like to talk on behalf of not only on the investors and lenders, but also on behalf of MFIs, where even the staff are being beaten when they go for collections. That is happening. We know that. And vice versa, that agents are being used for collection or reaching at during midnight hours for doing the collections is the other extreme. So I think the whole ecosystem has become very fragile and very risky. And that's why we are now today having this webinar. Now, the question is, as Saipal said, let's keep the focus. And for all MFIs who are here, 90 maximum of us will be MFIs, whether we can raise debt and equity based on adopting these principles and certifications. I would say, first of all, it's important to build the right institution. Money, I can say that on the debt side, the ecosystem is different. On the equity side, the ecosystem is very, very different. Within equity, the impact funds have drastically changed. I have seen right from FMO, SIGOMO, and CORDID, and those days to today, impact funds where there are the patient investors and the expectations have drastically changed. So, but the bar is increasing, the bar is raising every day. And if we need to raise money, both on the debt side and on the equity side, the institution has to be very, very dynamic, very, very professional, very, very much ahead of time. We need to be proactive rather than reactive. We need to have systems in place. We need to have practices in place. We need to have, enabling factors in place which supports and sustain these practices, right from grievance redressal. Just imagine the operation team or the sale team is about to disburse the money. And if the tele-verification system is there in MFI, like in Mitrata, we had that before disbursement, 100% verification is done. And independent person is asking the women, do you know at what rate you are being given this loan? And if the women say no, the disbursement won't happen. Now, just imagine mobilization, CGT, GRT, home visit done, and just one phone call can get rid of your business. That means cost has gone, returns are not coming, and the temptation is disbursed, but the client is not fully informed about the terms and condition and the rate of interest. And those are the choices we need to make. Should we disburse or we cancel that disbursement that day and go for GRT again, group training for members to get educated? I think client education, client protection is a dynamic process. It's ongoing. It's not one-time exercise. I strongly believe the question was that should special funds be created for facilitating the process? I think Mitrata is lucky that we are going to work with MPL now, with their team on another initiative on transparency. And as soon as I got a phone call, I said, yes, I don't have to hesitate. It's most welcome. We have to be, why should we be even hesitating? So I think resources are required. Certifications can be an expensive process, in terms of the cost. Also, I think that it should be facilitated to build the systems as a learning process. It's not about the judgment of pass and fail, It's about, filling up the gaps, as Sudhir mentioned, that exercise really helps. But let me put it again with an emphasis that we as MFIs, we have optimism. We have to work on building the right institution with the right principles, processes, systems, governance, practices, policies, code of conduct, internal audit. And I think these are the magnetic forces which are going to attract the investors and the lenders. And I can negotiate rate of interest on my lending partners today. I'm very small, but I do hard negotiation even for 50 paisa or 5 paisa, on the lending side. I'm struggling to raise equity. Mitrata is very well known in the sector, but I'm struggling. Equity is not naturally coming in because they say, we love you, as I have been saying in different forums, but threshold is you should have an AUM 1,000 crore. At that time, nobody talks of client protection. Nobody asks me the certification. They are asking me the balance sheet. What is my ROE? What is my ROI? What are my NPAs? And what is my AUM? So this fine balance, I think we need to have funds to support committed and honest institutions who have proven beyond any doubt themselves and who are ready to be part of this journey. But that affirmative action has to come from investors and lenders to sustain the belief and the motivation. But the driver for us is for client protection is not about raising money. It's about the core principle of having belief, it's a commitment, it's an accountability, and it's a key for sustaining the institution. If we want to build a sustainable institution, then we need to have this. There's no other choice. And the foundation of MFIs was based on core principles of client protection. We started this with knowing our clients, sitting with them, forming the GLG, visiting their house, talking to them, understanding their socioeconomic demographics, having a face to our credit. It was never about, anything else. If we have forgotten those core principles, it's time to remind ourselves back. And if the certification and the code of conduct and the core principles help us to remind us, we should, because it's a time that we need to remind ourselves to go back to the basics and build the institutions in a sustainable manner. I think I should stop there and leave time for question and
No,
answer.
no, really, I think that was very well said. I mean, we really enjoyed hearing you. And what you said was very pertinent and very important, especially kind of reflecting the perspective of the microfinance sector. For those that have always been on the responsible side, but what's happening, the ecosystem is changing so fast that is a bit of a shift and digression that you see, that you have all of those new players now, which are entering the market, and that and well, they are sizable, they're growing fast, and that's where they need to be reminded that it's consumer protection that you need to kind of focus on. And yes, you're right in that sense. We are, it's not that funding which should be holding an institution to be implementing or embedding consumer protection, but more, it is coming from the DNA of the institution, really, to kind of be pro consumer and see that we are not doing any harm to clients. But as I said at the beginning, we are in a transformation phase. We are seeing that things are changing very dramatically, and that's the reason why we're trying to bring this topic again at the forefront and saying, well, for those who are not really embracing as much of the consumer protection, maybe it's time that we really thought of. So with that, I have one just last question, and then I'm going to open this for questions to the participants. So what would your takeaways be from this session, or what would your takeaways be for the participants of this session be? Just one or two. What would you like to say to the participants as the most important two takeaways for them?
Go ahead.
Yamini, maybe we could go with you first.
Okay. Yeah.
In the same order. Okay.
Yeah, sure. So as I was saying before, definitely the board members, they need to be really given information about this, what it means, and we need to have some champion at the board level to drive this. And don't forget the staff, as Dr. Akhil also said, many times we are looking only at clients, but staff are very, very important in this whole process, getting their buy-in, training them, increasing their capabilities to deliver proper services. At the same time, they themselves are also benefiting from this whole thing. I think those are the two key takeaways from my side.
Yeah, thank you, Yamini. Sudhir?
Yeah, coming back to me. Okay. Looking at the past so many years of microfinance in various geographies, predominantly in India, I believe that each and every institution has a unique quality. Okay. They have to believe on themselves, saying that as a small institution, I'll be able to challenge whatever wind is going to come to me. And that is what we have seen in Indian microfinance sector. Why today we have so many SFBs, one universal bank, why there are institutions having Section 8 companies and different legal structures are still resourcing money, because they believe that they are doing right on ground. There needs to be, yes, it will take some time to you come to a level and people started recognizing your efforts and things like that, but believe in yourself. And each and every institution has doing a great activity in terms of unique activity. As Akhil sir said, that I have never heard saying that sales, risk management, everything is done. One phone call, everything stops. So for me, it's a cost of operation at the end of the day, if I look at from a business perspective. But that's the policy, and that's the unique thing which the organization is able to take it forward, and which, on its own will be, will be a guiding principle of others. So believe in yourself. Your Indian microfinance industry is doing fabulous job.
Great, thank you so much. Tanvi?
Yeah, so I would like to say that client protection is one of the best way to demonstrate to all your stakeholders, be it client, investors, your donors, or even the regulators, that your practices are not harming the clients. And it somehow also helps in responding and mitigating your reputational risk. So I think what Dr. Dr. Khan just mentioned, and what Saibal and Hema you were talking about, I don't think that even the investors, they really do not look at the overall that, there needs to be certificate as such. The whole reason why investors and the donors are also interested in this activity is because it helps them understand that the institution is there with long-term sustainability, and it is working towards reducing the credit risk, and it is really working towards enhancing the social impact. My second point that I have here is that I do think that SPTF Ceres already has enough, enough of due diligence, and the tool is equipped to even handle small organizations. So for small organizations, there are only 33 entry indicators for which, if the institution is complied to, they can get bronze, as well as, more than 65% of the total indicators, which would be equivalent to around 70, I would say. So there is already something that is available. And that's the reason why 3 years back, the feedback that Smart Campaign had got, that client protection and certification cannot be just pass and fail. It needs to be a journey so that the smaller organizations can also join the pathway. And that is why the new phase of Ceres SPT of client protection certification is all about client protection pathway, in which the smaller ones can be bronze, a bit, the one which is kind of accelerating could be silver, and then really the higher ones can really aspire for gold. So there is enough tools available. We are happy to help you, and feel free to reach out. But this client protection is really the heart of the business for anyone, even in the DFS space, because Ceres and SPTF is also working on embedding DFS indicators into, say, the US SCPM, which is like universal standards, and MFR is helping them in kind of revising those indicators as well. So everything is evolving, the landscape is evolving. We just need to be patient, and we just need to hear to the clients. I'll stop here.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Tanvi. That's great. So over to Nigina.
Yes,
Nigina.
Nigina.
Sorry for that.
It's okay. It's okay. Thanks a lot for sharing all your views and your experience. It's so useful. And what I like is like, we should not forget about why we all here. Yes, like for people, what we are doing, like in the center of everything that we are doing. Yes, sustainability, all the impact, climate protection is all what we are doing is for people. And what I want to say that let's just start acting now. Yes, let's just do our best to take these small steps. Yes, towards making clients' conditions much more better, and to give them that confidence they can, simply going and be sure that they are safe while lending. Because here in Tajikistan, here in Tajikistan, we had the same issues, because people, they are, especially women, yes, they are afraid of going to, just to borrow some some loan, yes, from MFIs, from banks. Why? Because they are not sure, they do not know their rights, they do not know how they are protected. Yes, it means that there is a when we're speaking about the reputation of MFIs, about this how impactful funds they are searching for MFIs. But there is so important to not forget about people. Yes, about to make them sure that this is safe, and you can come and you can just take a loan. And the second important thing is to train them, to educate them. Yes. So the training, I think, is another question. It's another issue, because to train your clients, you have to be trained by yourself, right? You have to have experience. You have to invite experts to, first of all, to teach the staff, so the staff can know and to start to, use it in practice, how to treat clients respectfully and explain clients of their rights. Yes. So in any case, you have your rights and you can protect yourself. So yeah, I think that there's really, as it was mentioned, that client protection is the heart, yes, of all this process. I really like this quote. So thank you very much once again for all your such insightful discussion. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much for your pointers. And last but not the least, Mr. Khan, please.
Thank you, Emma. Just 2 points that we as MFIs need to be honest and genuine about this initiative, and not to take it for granted, because now simply our words and emotion and passion will not be enough. We need to have systems, practices, and policies in place to demonstrate our conviction and our beliefs. So let's be honest, let's be committed, but at the same time, we need to have systems and practices in place to achieve our target and objective of client protection. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. So considering that we don't have a funder on the panel, I'm going to try and bring in the funders perspective, being at IFC and having worked with FMO, that that funders do recognize consumer protection. There is, as a matter of fact, FMO also has its own tool. So even before they make any investments, they require that the institution needs to be abiding by the consumer protection framework, or they need to be making progress towards it. For example, I think IFC has put in, at least for larger microfinance institutions, and they require that the institution be silver certified. And that would take time, and they do give time, not at the point of investment, but maybe over a period of a year or two. And that IFC engages very, very, very actively with its investee companies to help them achieve that landmark. And in terms of FMO, also they have a very standard questionnaire, and they look at the consumer protection aspect, and that the funds are tied to the deliverables in terms of achieving the certain landmark, in terms of maybe undergoing the training on consumer protection, or maybe doing a self-assessment on consumer protection. So all the funders, at least the social investors, are kind of looking at consumer protection, and there are incentives for the microfinance industry as such. With that, I will open this up for questions. And if you have any questions, please feel free to kind of type them in your chat box, or can unmute yourself and speak up for address the question. Please also explain, highlight which panelist you are addressing the question to. So we have about 15 minutes. I think, no, we have about 30 minutes for the question and answer round. Do you have any questions, please?
Yeah,
Yes,
I
Amar
have a
has.
question, and it's addressed to Sudhir and Tanvi. There have been talks going on that Series and SPTF no longer have the CPS tool with them, and there will be a new organization which will be coming up. I just want to confirm whether that's has any substance or not.
Okay, I'll go first.
Sure.
The tool is very much with SPTF series. The guidelines is going to be of SPTF series. As Tanvi mentioned, it's an approach which SPTF series and Smart Campaign, all stakeholders put together, has created this structure. I think that's the robust structure, strong structure in place. digital and other digital is work in progress if I'm not wrong at this point of time. But yes, the tool is very much in place.
Yeah,
Okay.
just to add to what Sudeep just mentioned, we are also hearing, but I think Ceres and SPTF methodology and the tool is very much applicable, because we recently also agreed on a framework agreement with FMO on going ahead with the same tool, as well as with Proparco. So these are all Europe-based investors. So it's not saying that the tool
It's very
will,
much there.
it's very much there.
So I'll just add, again, being part of the SCPM Pro network, I'll just also put it in the chat for you to see it on the series website. So what will change is not the tool per se, not the standards, none of that will change. What will change is the third-party validation process. So you can see it on the link I've shared. Earlier, Ceres and SPTF were also sort of organizing how the rating and certification was happening. That is what they will be withdrawing from. But they're, I think, still agreeing with voluntary, they're trying to come up with voluntary guidelines that all the rating agencies and whoever is taking the third-party validation role, they will all adhere to. So if Ceres and SPTF will be involved from that perspective. Yeah, you can see more in that link I have shared.
Yeah,
also.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Whoever has another question, please introduce yourself before you put in your question and your organization.
I'll introduce myself because I didn't. My name is Amar Mohammed and I am an AVP for Investor Relations and ESG with Muthoot Microfin. And earlier I was with MCRIL. I had 2 stints with MCRIL.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any more questions?
Ma'am, this is Sangeeta. So there was earlier a question in the chat. How is CP certification lead to certificate? So
I think that's for Sudhir. So
yeah.
Sangeeta ji, I have responded to that.
Okay.
On the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there was another question. The number of indicators is less than the usual. It was from Amar.
Amar was saying that the number is less.
Yeah.
That was a comment answer to Tanvi's question.
Okay.
Since I am aware of CPS Lite, that's why.
Yeah, and just to add to it, Amar, yes, the number of I would say the indicators are going to be much more lesser, as we are also going to embed digital finance indicators into the US SCPM. So we are very cognizant of the fact, Ceres and SPTF is very cognizant of the fact that the tool really needs to be short and more relevant.
Okay, so that's work in progress or that's already been finalized?
It's work in progress, and I think Ceres SPTF is going to announce it maybe by mid-May. So
yeah, because when I was at MCRIL, there were a lot of queries from the digital lenders wanting to get it done, but the tool didn't have the capacity to address those issues.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Amar. And I would also like to add that Ceres and SPTF, at least the pilot tool was already crafted, and so 28 to 29 institutions globally, they underwent this whole DFS pilot assessment globally, with few in Asia, I would say. So to just have the whole global picture before the finalization of the tool takes place. Yeah, so it's work in progress currently. Thank you.
And since we are talking about that, any idea like currently there are around more than 150 indicators. Will it be below 100? Just a vague idea.
Amar, WIP. So it will be, I'm not sure about what number it will come down, but yes, so overlapping will definitely be an interest.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you, Amar. Do we have other participants with some questions? You can either put in the chat box, please, or unmute yourself and address the question to the panelists that you.
I think there are not other
No,
questions.
okay.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, in that case,
Is
if we
there?
don't.
Yeah,
Is there
please
any
tell.
question?
No, I don't think so.
No
And if you
question?
have anybody, any question, please do write to us directly. We will raise it to the speakers. Yeah, so we are also exhausting our time. Anyway, thank you very much, Hema, for your moderation, and thank you all the speakers for your speaking on all these things. And thank you, Akhil. You have always been a reference, good reference for us. And one of the things which you have told that building of the system, I mean, we have to somehow transcend the fund is necessary, but unless and until you are building your system on the core principle of this client protection, you are not standing anywhere even to raise fund. That's a very good, I mean, point for discussion. One of the things which I could also request our this participants that one thing which has always been talked about is taking to the board. So involvement of the board is very, very much necessary. It is not just a process, but also board should be involved in it. They should also have a look whether it is going on properly or not. I mean, which is very, very much important, but I could understand from you. And, you know, this one of the things which Nigina has already brought in, yes, the impact investors, which we are also aware of. I purposely put that point into the discussion that whether everything said and done, whether we are getting funded or not. On the basis of this one, yes, Nigina has addressed that one. He was telling that many impact investors, they're looking forward for it. We are working with AFI. You would be like, I mean, taking it forward for sure. Yannick is there. I could see him. So the other thing possibly what we have to do that like from the association side, what I could see that MoYo have a strong, very strong base of client protection. You don't have to tell it anyone. It will be visible. Whoever goes, whoever wants to assess your institution, they can understand. And investors are not fool. They also understand what exactly is going on in the field. So this is one of the things over the period of last 2.5 decades, I could understand that if your base is very good, then everybody will try to get into your system, try to support you. And thank you once again. Thank you very much, all the speakers. And I'm very happy with this very lively discussion and lot of insights being provided by you people. We'll be taking forward this kind of discussion, and we would be I'd be requesting you people to enlighten us more and more on this.
And thank you to
Thank you.
Hema.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you.
Hema is
Thank you, everyone. Thanks,
Thanks a
Saibal.
lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
It
Bye-bye.
was nice.
Bye, Saibal.
Thank you, guys.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.